for Jalen. That was easy. You got to do it. Get out of there. Just say, yeah, he's doing a great job. And move on to the next question.
Yeah. Lie to my face. I don't care, Jalen, because guess what? As a reporter, I'm going to say, well, this is what Jalen said. We can speculate if he actually believes that or not, but now he actually gave us something.
Welcome back in, everybody, to Birds 365. We are McMullen days away from the Eagles opener. Johnny Mac, do you get my reference?
McMullen days away. I do not. I'm not quite that old.
A shout to Billy McMullen, a third-round pick for the Philadelphia Eagles in 2003. Had 52 receptions, 725 yards for the Eagles. He wore number 81, Johnny Mack, and we are 81 days away. I was going to go Terrell Owens, but I'm like, let me see if I can pull something a little better than TL. I'll give Jason Avant a nod, too. He wore 81 as well.
Well, I don't remember. I remember Billy got traded to Minnesota, and he wore some kind of 12, 13, somewhere in that range, 10, something. I don't remember what it was, but I wasn't here when Billy was here. But yeah, it's good that a McMullen was an Eagle.
There you go. Johnny Mack is not an Eagle, but Billy McMullen was an Eagle, so we appreciate Billy McMullen, and we are 81 days out from Eagles. Let's get to Jeff Kerr, who joins us now on Birds 365. Jeff, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I think John McMullen could have been a better NFL player than Billy McMullen.
Yeah, he might.
I don't think so. Come on, Billy was Billy hung around for a while. You got to give him credit. I'm looking him up now. Played 50 NFL games. That's an accomplishment.
Yeah, that's an accomplishment. 6'4", 210.
That's an accomplishment, Jeff Kerr. It's hard to play in the NFL.
It is hard to play in the NFL, but when Donovan McNabb literally had nothing at wide receiver until Terrell Owens.
Oh, well, yeah, it's a third-round pick. Yeah, he was a third. That's a disappointment. He wore number 12 in Minnesota. That's what,
Yeah.
That's what I remember.
It's funny. I remember him playing more for the Vikings than I did for the Eagles. He just couldn't crack the field when he was in Philly.
Yeah. You remember who he was traded for? I remember that because I was covering the Vikings.
Oh, man. Yeah, I got to think about this one quick.
He's somewhat famous for a different reason, maybe.
It's Hank Baskett, right?
Hank Baskett,
yeah.
For his wife, Kendra.
Hank had a couple nice years.
No, he had a nice, he was better than Billy, I would say.
I would say that. He had 2 90-yard catches in a season once.
Yeah, so I would say it worked out. And he, by the way, he was the rare undrafted free agent to get traded. He was a rookie undrafted free agent in Minnesota, and they traded him for Billy McMullen. And of course, he was married to Playboy playmate Kendra Wilkinson, which is his greatest accomplishment, I would argue.
Well, that's why he was so successful, John.
Yes.
We are on a Billy McMullen tangent, and I absolutely love it. Jeff, we got to do it. I told John I'm done with it, but we have to do it. What do you make of the Jeff McClain report of several key figures now inside the Eagles organization not happy with QB1's comments? Like I said, I don't want to do it, Jeff, but we got to do it. We're in June, and we are going to talk about this until we're blue in the face. What do you make of it?
Well, I'm not surprised. I don't think that the Eagles pertain. If we're talking strictly the organization, they couldn't have been happy just because we are talking about it right now. And it was a softball question. It was a softball question that required a softball answer, and Jalen just didn't give one. And look, I'm not going to question Jalen Hurts' leadership or anything like that, but I'm still kind of shocked. And 11 days after this has happened, how a guy who prepares for press conferences and a guy who likes to get his word out just wasn't prepared for a question like that? Or was he?
I think he was.
Yeah, and there's the speculation. That's what I got from someone with the Eagles, Jeff. I mean, you create this vacuum. You got 6-7 weeks, and we're talking about it. Like, why? It's an unforced error. Why wouldn't they be disappointed? That's how I look at it. For the people that want to jump on their sword for Jalen, defend Jalen at all costs. Why wouldn't you be disappointed? Why? It's a layup, as you said. So I don't even think I would be shocked if they weren't disappointed.
You know what's a good comparison right now, John? Now that we're on this whole sports and tangent, basically, Jalen Hurts had a 4-foot putt to get par at the U.S. Open.
Yeah, there we go.
And
Nice.
didn't get
Nice.
it.
Nice. Yeah, we were just talking about the U.S. Open. Yes, exactly. So
I don't want to go there, Jeff. You think Jalen Hurts' squander was as big as a squandering a U.S. Open inside 4 feet? I don't know.
But the professional athlete, and I missed that putt. We've all missed putts like that in our lives. And someone who used to golf regularly, I can tell you it's one of the most frustrating things in the world. But you got to make that putt.
You got to. You're right, Jeff. You're right. You got to make that putt.
Yeah, that's where I like the comp is you got to do it. It's easy. You got to do it. And for Jalen, that was easy. You got to do it. Get out of there. Just say, yeah, he's doing a great job. And move on to the next question.
Yeah. Lie to my face. I don't care, Jalen, because guess what? As a reporter, I'm going to say, well, this is what Jalen said. We can speculate if he actually believes that or not, but now he actually gave us something.
Yeah. Yeah, it was an unforced error, as I describe it. And needless speculation is what I got from an Eagles source, which I agree with. I
agree with too.
And, you know, it's going to be this way until training camp. And by the way, at the beginning of training camp, he's going to get asked about it. And he'll probably deflect it from there. But, if he doesn't shut it down, it's going to continue and continue and continue. So again, from a standpoint of, I don't know if the Eagles are going to sit him down or how they're going to handle it, but, don't create unforced errors.
My issue is, too, with the whole thing for people defending him. And look, I defend Jalen Hurts a lot, too. I think he's one of the game's top 10 quarterbacks. But you're part of the problem, too, Jalen. You turned the football over 21 times. I've seen Eagles fans chastise Carson Wentz, chastise Donovan McNabb, Randall Cunningham. My dad would tell me back in the day they would crucify Ron Jaworski for returning the football. Don't change it now because you want Jalen to be Michael Jordan. And guess what? Michael Jordan, the quote-unquote Eagles version of Michael Jordan, has not won yet.
Well, I was talking about this, Jeff, because you were there a lot during the spring. And we all saw, and the Eagles' first team offense specifically struggled. But when Xander and I were talking about it before you came on, and I boil it down and I say to myself, well, that AJ was good. AJ was AJ. Devontae was good when he showed up at minicamp. Dallas Goedert, I thought, was great. He was open. Bunch of touchdowns were there.
I thought all the tight ends were good.
I'm not going to go that far, but Dallas was.
CJ had a couple draws, but yeah.
Yeah, Dallas certainly was. The offensive line isn't really involved, so we're not talking about them. Saquon wasn't involved for whatever reason. You can criticize Saquon, and I have, but he wasn't involved. So what are we talking about when we say the first team offense struggled? Well,
QB1.
Yeah. And for all those that say, I kind of wrote something about Saquon as well. And I said, well, he didn't do anything. He didn't splash. You can't do that in the spring. Well, Kenny Gainwell did it in OTAs, and then he was bad in minicamp. Will Shipley, it was like a 180. He was bad in OTAs, and then he was good in minicamp. Those guys showed up. Even Kendall Milton showed up.
They need a running back. So Kendall Milton might be it.
Well, I'm not going to go that far, but at least he showed up in practice a little bit, granted with the third team. But my overriding point is we're talking about 1-2 players as struggling, and that had an impact on, and obviously the most important one is the guy delivering the football. If you have, I counted 3 touchdowns that were there for Dallas Goedert and drills. bad throws, overthrow, underthrow, wide, wide right, I think it was. If those are 3 touchdowns, you get a whole different narrative about the spring.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm always one of those guys that practice is practice, and is he working on stuff in practice? Absolutely, he is.
It's possible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
new
but
new offensive coordinator. I mean, they're going to work on new things, right?
yeah, but I agree with you, John, too. And in this case, there are some throws that you're like, okay, where you're practicing or not, that's a layup again. So, and you just can't make that. I don't know, and whether he is frustrated with everything that's going on or not, that's why I get frustrated when someone like him, if he is frustrated, because if you play better, if you don't turn the football over, if your team doesn't lose 6 or 7, which by the way, you're one of the leaders of this football team, you didn't fix it either. So they fixed it. And they got rid of they probably made some decisions you weren't happy with. But that's the way it is. And you signed the contract. So
Yeah, it's time to
this
take
is
off
it.
the kid gloves with the first string quarterback. That's where I think we are. I mean, I see a lot of people who are afraid to criticize Jalen Hurts. I mean, yeah, he handled that poorly.
It's
All
funny
right.
how that works because I believe there should be more of a spotlight. I mean, when you're making what you're making, when you are the part of the team that you are, the leader of the team, the leader of the clubhouse, the quarterback one for, one of the biggest organizations in the world, biggest football organizations in the world. The onus is on, the pressure is on. It's funny how that works where it's like, that happens and then nobody wants to criticize him when it really should probably be the opposite, where there's more pressure and you have to live up to that contract, you have to live up to those expectations that come with it. And it's only fair to ask the question. By the way, the coaches aren't lining up inside the lines. The coaches aren't calling hike and throwing the
No, you
ball
would
and
think
catching
they
the
are.
ball. You would think they are, right, with the way they're criticized, but
Yeah.
the players, there always should be accountability on players. And sometimes it's hard, I think, for fans, me included, to go that route. But that's the right, I think that's the
And
right way
I
to do it.
said this for years with this regime. This is even going back to Joe Banner. This has been going back 30 years. Remember when Terrell Owens wanted Donovan McNabb to kind of vouch for him about his
Yeah.
contracts, and McNabb goes, "It's not going to do much." Like basically, McNabb said it without saying it. It's not going to do much because that's just not how they roll here.
Yeah.
If Donovan could say, "I need him," I'm not, and then Donovan ain't gonna say, "I'm not gonna play." I mean,
Yeah.
Donovan's not, but the quarterback doesn't have the say in this organization like, say, a Tom Brady would in New England. Tom Brady didn't even have that.
Jeff, I want to ask you, moving a little bit off, still in the same breath though. What will equal success this year for the Philadelphia Eagles? How good do they have to be? I mean, we're talking about Nick and the new offense and Jalen. What does success mean this year for the Philadelphia Eagles?
To me, with the talent on this team, you have to at least win a playoff game, at the very least. I think if they went to the NFC Championship, I think if they don't have a late season collapse, I think that's success because it's hard to win a Super Bowl. Let's be realistic.
Yeah, right.
And I don't think Jalen's going to turn the football over 21 times this year. I think he's going to be better this year. If there's drama throughout that locker room and if they win 12, 13 games and go deep in the playoffs, then that's a fine year. There's nothing wrong with that. I just think everything just snowballed at once last year after the 10-1 start. And I didn't like the way that team was talking even when they were 5-0 and this and that. Well, we're not. Well, no, you are what your record says you are. So figure it out. And I still am very upset at this team for how they reacted after beating the Giants on Christmas. They acted like they lost the game. And I'm like, you guys haven't won a game in a month. And you're acting like you lost. There's problems here.
Yeah, the most miserable 10-1 team was the description. I do think expectations play into it. That was one of the reasons. Like they're winning games, and everybody, yeah, but they don't look that good, and blah, blah, blah. And then it almost became a self-fulfilling prophecy at a certain point. Once San Francisco just beat the brakes off of them, it seemed like they lost all their confidence. And confidence is a big thing with professional athletes. And when you're not playing with confidence, it can affect you dramatically.
Ask
And then
Alex
there's
Home.
yeah. Then there's games one way, The Seattle game, they should have beat Seattle. They should have beat Arizona. And who knows if that, even scratching and clawing, because I know everybody's like, well, you should beat this team, you should beat that team. It's an NFL team. Everybody can beat everybody. Everybody's got good players. I say it all the time. Pick up any roster in the NFL, you're going to find 10, 12 really good players. Really good players. It's not like college. And I think a lot of people see somebody on the schedule and say, that's a win. And then all of a sudden, it becomes incredibly disappointing when it turns into a loss. Over the years with the New York Giants, the Eagles have dominated the Giants over
2
a
decades.
pretty extended period of time. But there's little hiccups in there, Saquon beat him twice. That's why he's here. Lost to him, 10 times. Beat him twice. Everybody's got good players in the NFL.
Yeah, and I agree with you on this too, John. Seattle and Arizona, like those are the games where you just go back and think, how did this happen? Like, I wrote it off after they lost to San Fran, Dallas. I'm like, okay, well, you lost to them. They're better than you. That's fine. You still can control the narrative here and go beat these teams and still win 12-13. By the way, the Eagles won 13 games last year. Their home field advantage. They would have had the first round bye.
Right.
Now, if they would have lost, it would have been a massive disappointment, but at least you still had it. You could still control your narrative. But when you lose to Drew Lock of all people, and the way you lose to Drew Lock. And look, the Eagles did this to themselves too with the coordinator change. Was it necessary? No.
Even if the size sucked and you hated them, it wasn't necessary.
Players hated them.
Yeah, but that's part of the equation, right? Like even if
that's their fault, Jeff. Why would you hate Sean Desai?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I've heard my stories, John. You've heard them.
I know. Sean Desai's one of the. It's like, all right, he he wasn't equipped to be a defensive coordinator. So, I would have moved on after the season. I don't think it does any good in season. And I think, now that we saw it, you saw how bad it was.
Yeah, it did harm.
It's not that they even got worse. But from the standpoint of guys bailing on Sean Desai, one of the funniest things to me, Jeff, is like Sean, because of his lack of experience and his lack of presence. I kept hearing the word presence when it came to Sean Desai. Everybody questioned everything. What are you doing? What are you doing? Vic does the same shit and nobody utters a word. He's throwing everything at these guys. And I'm like, that's weird. Remember, I asked Evan White. I asked Evan White from his time in Tampa, is that typical? They throw everything and then scale back? Because I've always been told you build up and then you add things. Not Vic. And not Sean. He did it the opposite way. You remember when he broke out James Bradbury in the slot? We're all looking at each other like, what the hell are you doing, dude? And everybody questions. Vic does shit like that. He's got Quinyon Mitchell, rookie cornerback, and his first minicamp playing dime linebacker.
Yeah.
And we're all like, oh, that's fine. That's Big Fangio.
Do you
if
think
that was Sean Desai, I'm sorry, Jeff.
Oh, no, you're right, though.
No, but do you think it's because you got players in the past, the Ricky Jacksons, when Sam Mills was alive, he said it, Patrick Willis, Navarro Bowman, guys like that who were raving about Vic. I mean, Vic was in Minnesota, right, John? He was in Minnesota at one point.
No, he's Chicago.
Oh, Chicago, that's it.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought he was in Minnesota like in the 90s or something.
No,
Carolina, he was in the 90s.
Yeah, he's been a lot of places.
Yeah,
Minnesota's one of the few he hasn't been.
But when you got legends at positions just saying left and right how much they learned from him, How many?
No, well, I'm not. By the way, that is not a criticism of Vic Fangio. I'm trying to
No.
point out how things get
But do you think it's a
spun.
resume thing? That's where I'm going toward this. Like Sean Desai just
Oh,
doesn't have the resume.
it's absolutely. That's where I was going. It's absolutely a right.
I
He is literally copying what Vic does.
I
Vic
mean,
taught him.
yeah, I mean, I do that as a writer. You know, if I have a disagreement with an editor, I go by my experience. I say, well, that's all well and good, but are you actually right though? Maybe that's what the players did.
Oh, I believe that's my whole point. My whole point is because of his reputation, people just like, all right. And because of Sean and his lack of reputation, they're like, I'm telling you, if Sean Desai was here as a first year defensive coordinator this year, and Quinyon Mitchell was a dime linebacker in minicamp,
People would be going nuts.
they'd be burning the city down.
They've had
And
the
with
Phillies
Vic,
to distract them.
well, yeah, you're probably right. But Vic can do it, and
I
he's
don't
got
know.
the
We got the Phillies
cachet.
now, and we're burning down the city about a Jalen Hurts comment, Jeff.
That's true.
Yeah, well,
By the
this
way,
is
Baltimore's handling your Phillies. That's a good team, Baltimore.
Yeah,
I wasn't surprised by this week at all. Not
Yeah.
at all. They always have trouble in Boston, and Phillies fans are very unrealistic, just like a lot
Well,
of
it's
other.
like football. They treat every game like it's a football game.
Yeah, and Rob Thompson's the worst manager ever, and heaven forbid I mentioned Bryson Stott's a career 234 hitter. Oh, that's not the thing you should be worried about. Yes, it is when you have JT Realmuto and Trey Turner and this guy out. These guys have to step up, him and Nick Castellanos, and they're not doing it. I'm going to
Phillies
bring
on a
it
bit of
up.
yeah, Phillies on a bit of a slide right now. Hopefully they can.
And they'll fix it. I'm not.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Talented team. They'll be fine. In baseball, you have these ebbs and flows. It's just the way it is.
Let's close the door here, though, on Sean Desai. I want to ask both of you the question: what is it then? Like, why did that? And I want to move on because he's in the past and he's not with the Eagles anymore, and it doesn't really matter for the future of the team. But what, like, why? Why is he not? If he was doing what Vic did, is it all the intangibles? Is he just not built to lead grown men who are playing the sport at an elite level? How did you guys see Sean Desai? Why did it not work out? Because it doesn't really sound like it was too football related to me. I mean, they weren't a great defense. They weren't a great. Yeah. You could have given Vic Fangio to the team last year. They still wouldn't have been a great defense. They had no players.
Yeah, I always say
communication and presence, like what John said.
The minute Jim Schwartz walks into a room, you know he's in charge. Some people got it, some people don't.
Yeah, it's true.
I've said that playing sports as a coach, I say it too. You got to establish control right away. If not, forget it. It's, you're just not going to be respected. He wasn't respected, and I don't even think he was trying to be anybody's buddy. It's just,
it's not fair. He's more of a
reality. Fair, life's not fair. The world isn't fair. Nothing is fair.
He's an education major. He's a cerebral guy. He's quiet. He's understated. He's smart.
Maybe too smart.
Yeah, this is football. You got to be an alpha dog at some point. You got to be smart, but you got to, like I said, Jim's the best example here that I've seen. Jim Schwartz, to the point where you remember when Doug Peterson first got the job. I think it was Mike Lombardi with that stupid story.
But by the way, the fact that people still take Mike Lombardi's opinion seriously just drives me insane.
He thought Jim was trying to undercut Doug and get the head coaching job or some. I don't remember, but and I said at the time, well, he acts like a head coach, but that's because he was a head coach. That's because that's the way he is. He owns every room he walks into.
And Doug liked that, by the way.
And Doug did deal with it. Did pretty well, as a matter of fact. So, I mean, there's a lot to presence when it comes to an NFL team, NFL locker room. And I just don't think he had it. But I also say, I think that was Nick's biggest mistake last year. And by the way, it is Nick. Nick fired him.
Yeah.
Nick demoted him. Sorry, did not fire him.
Which was stupid in its own
Well,
right.
but by the way,
Most
how
guys
embarrassing
just
was
get
that
rid
for
of him.
Sean Desai?
That's what I mean. It made it worse, in my opinion. If you're going to move on and you're going to make that decision, just fire the guy. I mean, what you put him up and they're showing him on the telecast in the playoff game, him calling from the box, that doing nothing. What is he telling Matt Patricia what to call? That was stupid. The whole setup of that was stupid.
It was. And I said, for the people arguing that Nick Sirianni should lose his job, they always talk offense, how stale the offense is, how the bubble route, they can't handle a blitz, blah, blah, blah. I said, if your biggest, strongest argument for Nick Sirianni to be fired was Sean Desai.
Yeah, and the handling of that.
I still believe that.
You know, when people were saying the offense was stale last year, I got roasted on Twitter when you guys remember, I think it was the Cardinals game when Jalen Hurts took a shotgun snap. It was supposed to be somewhat of an RPO, and he was supposed to get rid of the ball quick, and he didn't, and he kept it, and he lost like 10 yards. I said, that ain't the coach. That's the quarterback.
No, well, yeah.
Hey, can't say that. Can't say Eagles running game is good because we got local boy DeAndre Swift. I'm like, DeAndre Swift isn't good, people. I'm just telling you right now, he's not. He wasn't that type of player you thought he was. I mean,
and the local guy was not happy here.
No, he wasn't, and he made that clear. He wasn't happy here a couple times.
I want to move on. Let's move on here. I want to hit Twiz. This is a good comment. Howie's fault, Nick's fault, Jalen's fault, Desai's fault, Pencil's fault. How about
I like Pencil's fault.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good comment there, Twiz. Thanks for checking in, brother. We appreciate it here every day.
Yeah, I didn't see Jalen in there though. That's no. I
thought he put Jalen.
Was he in there?
Did Twiz intentionally leave out Jalen? Did he?
Nobody wants to blame Jalen.
No, he mentioned Jalen. I thought he did.
Did he?
Yeah,
okay. He's in there. All right. I apologize. I missed it. Yeah, I'm glad. Because I think, you brought up Donovan. Xander, you brought up Ron Jaworski back in the day. Like, why do so many people have a problem? Even Jalen Hurts doesn't have a problem with you criticizing him.
No,
he knows that. Typically, that's part of the gig when you're a starting quarterback in the NFL. You're going to get shit if your team loses. I've never seen a more protected quarterback in Philadelphia.
But don't go after that guy in Dallas who did have a better year last year than Jalen.
No, I'm talking from a fan base standpoint.
You're right on that, though, Jeff.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have taken the Dak Prescott. I wouldn't have taken the result.
Well, yeah. I get. Xander and I had it out with Micah Parsons. I mean, Eagles fans hate the Cowboys, and they're not going to give credit to any Cowboy player for being a good player. Even when Zach Martin goes in the Hall of Fame, they'll say he's overrated or Micah Parsons.
I did not give him credit, John. I just said I didn't think he's generational.
I've heard for years growing up, Larry Allen was overrated. Eric Williams is overrated.
Larry Allen.
And I'd be like, Eric Williams is from stinking Philadelphia. Like, come on. I don't care. I'm like, do you think he chooses that? No, they're the team that signs. You just hate him because he's beating the crap out of Mike Mamula every week.
Yeah.
Jeff, you bridged me to my next question, what I wanted to ask you. The easiest way to get into the playoffs in the NFL is to win your division, right? I mean, you can be 9-7 if you win your 9-8. If you win your division, you're in. How are you viewing the NFC East going into this year? I think Dallas looks like they took a small step backward, maybe not huge. I think Washington got better, but how much better this year? Giants, I don't know. What do you make of the NFC East going into this year?
I think Washington did get better. I like what Washington's doing. I like the leadership. I think Dan Quinn is going to be a pretty good second-time head coach, honestly, just from talking to him this offseason and gathering some information from their players. I don't think they're going to compete for this division this year, but I think they're on the upswing.
Yep.
The Giants, I think, are better, but they're still the Giants. It's hard for me to take them seriously as long as Daniel Jones is their quarterback. They lost their best player.
That's a big upgrade over last year.
Yeah, Nick's right. Nick Sirianni's right, though. We got your best player. And back again to the fans. No, our best players.
Dexter Lawrence, actually.
Yeah. Dexter Lawrence. I'm like, no.
By the way, Nick is 100% wrong. Their best player has been, will be, who is Dexter Lawrence, and
What
it's
about-
not particularly close.
They did lose their another one of their good players too, Xavier McKinney.
Yeah, he was very good. The Eagles really won in here.
I like the
But
wide
Dexter-
receiver they picked up in the draft too, Malik Neighbors. I mean, that
Malik
kid.
Oh, I
can
love
play.
Malik
But
Neighbors.
as Johnny Mack and I point out in the opening of the show, Jeff, before you're here, wide receivers are only as good as the vehicle getting them the football. So it's going to come down to Daniel Jones is how good Malik Neighbors.
They have
Daniel
a Gremlin when they
Jones.
should have a Porsche.
Daniel Jones is an average NFL quarterback. I don't think he's terrible. I think he's an average starting quarterback.
The Giants
But
fans think he's something else.
He is something else compared to Tommy DeVito. I mean, what they were playing with last year was really difficult. Defensively, it's interesting because they lost Wink Martindale. Obviously, they went in a different direction, so they're not going to be the weirdo blitzing team anymore. But Lawrence is one of the best players in football. He's one of the best defensive tackles in football.
He's a stud. And by the way, they got Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau on.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's a nasty pass rush. Yeah,
that defensive front is looking good. Now losing McKinney hurts, but I'm a big fan of Deonte Banks. I think he's going to be a good player.
I like him too.
Overall, that's a bad team, a bad organization.
Have they done anything with that offensive line?
Yeah, they did. They added Runyon. They added Jermaine. I can never pronounce his name.
I don't mind Runyon. I think Runyon.
Yeah, John Runyon's okay. Andrew Thomas is a really good player. Evan Neal hasn't lived up to the billing, so to speak.
John Michael Schmitz wasn't that good his rookie year last year.
No, it's getting better. That's weird. They've had a bad offensive line for so long, and they've tried to fix it with like premium picks, and they just can't fix it.
You know what their issue really is with that organization, with their offensive line? They look at it as, okay, we had an average offensive line when we won 2 Super Bowls, so we can get away with that. Well, no, you can't. You can't get away with Sean O'Hara. And that's what they try to do. And nothing against Sean O'Hara. He's a good media guy. But you just can't do what you're doing on the offensive line now and expect to win football games. And they do it.
Yeah.
Well,
and we're going to see.
We're talking about Daniel Jones. His average output is equal to the highest paid quarterback at the moment. I guess he's alluding to Trevor Lawrence, but yeah, it's true.
Yeah, well, that doesn't matter. Yeah. Contracts are about timing. Is it ridiculous that Trevor Lawrence is the highest paid quarterback? Or I don't know, Joe Burrow might be tied, whatever.
They're tied. But you know what? They had to do it. They had to pay this guy. And
nobody's saying that makes him the best quarterback.
Oh, by the way, give Jacksonville credit for jumping on this early. Because Trevor
what would
Lawrence
you do with what would you do with Tua? Because I'm not paying that guy.
I'm not paying Tua. I'm not paying him.
Yeah,
the problem with it's the same conversation in Dallas. Now I think Dak Prescott's a lot better of a quarterback than Tua Tagovailoa.
Tua's gonna make a lot of money.
But what do you do, right? If you move on,
Tua, it's tough. It's almost tough, you don't want to be in that position.
I'll tell you what.
It's like I don't want to pay him. I don't want to pay him. I'm a big Trevor Lawrence guy coming out. I think he's still got tremendous upside, but
I do too.
I don't want to pay him that. I don't want to pay these guys that. It affects how you build the rest of your team. I to the point where, like I think Minnesota made bad decision after bad decision after bad decision, keep going down the route, and everybody knows. I think Kirk Cousins is better than. I think he's one of the most underrated quarterbacks ever. I think he's a really good quarterback, and he doesn't get credit for it.
Numbers actually show how underrated he is.
Yeah, his numbers are insane.
But he's not top tier, and I don't want to pay him $50 million when he's not. He hasn't been the kind of guy who's willing to work with you to help build the roster in other places. So I look at what they did, and they find Sam Darnold, and I'm probably wrong. But I'm interested to see Sam Darnold play this year, Jeff, because one, he was under Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco last year. I have tremendous respect for Kyle Shanahan. And if anybody can get the talent out of somebody, two, he's never had a decent supporting cast. Now he's got Jefferson and Addison and Hawkinson and Aaron Jones and everybody in Minnesota. I want to see if he can play. I'd rather pay him $10 million than pay Tua Tagovailoa $50 million or Kirk Cousins, whatever he got guaranteed. All right, you're going to have great games. Miami scored 70 points.
Yeah.
You're not getting to where you ultimately want to go.
At the end of the year, I remember when they scored 70 and people were just raving about them. I'm like, okay, it's week 3 of the season.
Yeah, and then Sean Desai's defense shut him down right after that.
That's right.
Yeah, Sean Desai. This is how I always compare when someone has a big early. I'm like, I remember when the unstoppable Eagles with Michael Vick just blitzkrieged at the time, Washington, sorry. And Michael Vick looked unstoppable, and that team couldn't win a freaking game at the end of the season. So,
yeah, it's a tough decision though, because Xander's right. You're not going to get better than Tua.
Yeah, where do you
got to win?
And that's kind of where the Giants are right, John. Like the Giants paid what, $40 million for Daniel, and we can sit here and criticize Daniel. I don't like him either. I don't think the Giants are even a threat with them. But John said it, and I think John's right. He's a middle of the pack quarterback.
And guess what? He's getting paid right now like a middle of the pack quarterback.
You didn't pay top dollar for him, but what's the floor? If you're giving a new quarterback a new contract, what is the floor? I think $40 million is probably a low floor. I think that's the floor. If you're even Baker Mayfield, what he signed for? 45?
And that's why I'd rather go the churn route. I'm just going to throw guys in there and see if they can play and keep rotating.
Yeah, but you're going to live like the other half of the NFL. That
I really feel Tampa paid Mayfield, and again, it's not a long deal, but I really think it came down to Mike Evans like Baker Mayfield, and they wanted to keep Mike Evans, so that's what they did.
And Jalen's deal looks better by the day as all these deals come down.
Jalen, by the way,
is mediocre still. Because Jalen hasn't proven to me he's top tier.
Jalen Hurts is the 6th highest paid.
Be careful, Xander. Be careful.
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, that's just where I think the money kind of is irrelevant in these discussions, John. And you say it all the time. He's up next, so he's going to get the money, right? Like, but I don't think Jalen is Joe Burrow. I don't think Jalen is Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes. In fact, I don't even really think he's in the ballpark of those guys. But he's getting paid like he is. Now, I think we can win with Jalen. That doesn't mean I don't think we can win with them. But the money factor, it's almost irrelevant because that's who's next, and that's what they're going to get paid.
How about Josh Allen? He's the 10th highest paid quarterback in football.
Yeah, they got to give him a new deal soon, don't they?
I wouldn't. Not right now. I'd be like, hey, man, let's rest on laurels.
You can criticize Josh Allen and what and the where are you going? Yeah, that's what I mean. They're going to pay that.
This is what I mean. I wouldn't pay him because you're getting rewarded for paying him early. You pay him when it's time to pay him.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned that Josh Allen was better than Jalen Hurts a month ago or so on the show.
Always been better than Jalen.
Oh, he's always, it's not even close, but I got killed for it. He never won anything. I can't stand the never. Is it his fault Sean McDermott can't navigate 13 seconds? Like, nobody looks at the content. What does that have to do with Josh Allen?
Or Sean McDermott didn't know how many guys there were on the football field? I
mean, everybody boils it down to quarterback versus quarterback. Like, nobody else is working towards winning a football game.
Yeah, so this is where, and I am the Windsor QB stat guy, but there's context to it. Like, if you have a big enough sample size there, but again, Josh Allen isn't the reason the Buffalo Bills lose playoff games.
No.
I could say Dak Prescott can be, because he doesn't play like Dak Prescott.
People don't even remember how long Buffalo went without a playoff game. And now
win.
Now it's about, they can't win the big game.
Just remember something and again, I'm the big Windsor QB stat guy. This is where I kind of argue with myself. Dan Marino won a road playoff game for the first time in his career at 38, and he sucked in the Kingdom. Absolutely sucked. And won a playoff.
Well, my best example is John Elway. John Elway was losing Super Bowls when he was one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. when he won his 2 Super Bowls, he was an aging, complimentary player. That was Terrell Davis's team.
Not 98 though. He did play well in Super Bowl 33. He did throw for 300 in that game.
Check out the other Super Bowl, one of the worst Super Bowls ever by a quarterback, and they won.
Yeah,
he was at the end of it, and even Peyton Manning. I call Peyton the greatest regular season quarterback of all time, the most consistent quarterback of all time. His second Super Bowl, he was awful. He was awful.
He was worse than a game manager.
How much let me ask you guys a question, because we're talking about quarterbacks. It's a good conversation. How much stock do you guys put in like quarterback stats, yards, touchdowns?
0. I feel that 0. I do. That's me. That's me.
I use it to frame an argument.
You know, I always tell this story. I have never played and it stands to this day, and I will never play in any fantasy football league or play fantasy football. I never have. I never will.
What a shocker! You don't play.
I am not either, John. I've never played. I do not play fantasy.
People ask me, "Oh, can you join me?" I'm like, no, 0, no interest, none whatsoever. And it goes back to Troy Aikman again. Dallas people are going to hate me. I'm not a Cowboys fan.
You're not a fan
all these people used to say Troy Aikman was not a great quarterback because he didn't have great stats. Obviously, it was a different era of football, more run driven.
Pretty efficient though when he
did throw the ball. Very efficient. And at that point, I'm like, all right, you people are nuts. I have no desire to be involved with these types of conversations that don't understand that Troy Aikman is a Hall of Fame quarterback. So from that standpoint, when I say, and I'm being a little bit facetious, you have to have a bare minimum from statistics. But you know, Xander, from my arguments with Jody Mack over the years, he's a big stat guy. I wish arguing about stats was banned in football. It is not a statistical game. Jeff covers baseball. Baseball's a very statistical game.
Yeah,
large sample size.
So.
Yeah, you could base anything pretty much off. Like if people went nuts when I mentioned yesterday Bryson Stott was hitting 171 over his last 28 games. They're like, oh, like he really isn't hitting. Yeah, he's not. It's not just me talking out my ass.
Yeah, but here's where I think the stats conversation is interesting pertaining to football and quarterbacks. Like Kirk Cousins, part of the reason we know Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback is because the guy throws 5,000 yards basically every year or close to it, right? Like, isn't that no? I think it's close to 5. I mean, but here's an example though: Tua Tagovailoa. Like, are they going to move on from him? Last year, he had 4,600 yards, 29 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, and a 101 quarterback rating. Like, where are they going to go? Jalen's never thrown 4,000 yards in his career, and he's getting paid $51 million.
Well, he's had 4,000 total yards in his career.
Yeah, I mean,
but the thing is, and I because I've talked about Kirk for years, he's so consistent year after year after year after year, dating back to his days in Washington as a high volume thrower. But you're also, if you're getting up to the numbers that he would get up to, you're also playing from behind a lot. You're also
my dad calls them garbage numbers, empty numbers, whatever.
That's true. It's a good point. That's where the context of it is so
deep. And the lack of sample size, even though they keep going up and we're at 17 games, it's still a small sample size. So you can have a 73-point game, whatever Miami scored last year. It skews your whole season from a statistical standpoint.
You know what, John? There is a stat though that can determine the quarterback's worth. And it's giveaways. And this is why I got upset over the Lawrence thing when I mentioned how many giveaways he had last year and how many giveaways he has in his career for 3 years, and it's the most in the league. Well, Urban. I'm like, he had more giveaways last year. Urban wasn't
talking about just turnovers, right, Jeff?
Yeah, giveaway turnovers. Well, that's what
this is the problem with Josh Allen too. Like, he's the one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league, but the guy does turn the ball over a lot.
So is Jalen.
That's the problem with the 2023 Jalen Hurts.
Well, no, Jalen turned it over a lot last year, and that's one of my that's one of the reasons you should have optimism. His history is he doesn't turn it
Yeah,
over.
he's gonna
Right.
regress. He's gonna regress back to where
To the
he
mean.
should be. That's why he
Exactly.
was so good in 22. He wasn't turning the football over at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I think he had
that's,
7 or 8 turnovers.
but when you talk about statistics and, there's some advanced statistics, points per drive, expected points per drive, that are meaningful, but, you want to roll your eyes when you talk about it.
But you know what's the problem with talking about EPA? And again, I've been doing this for a while, John. You've been doing this for a while. These geniuses with EPA never explain it to you. They just assume you know it, and that's what bothers me. And it's like that in
Well,
baseball. You mean
No, yeah, I hate, baseball writing used to be the best thing ever, right? The old school writers, the romanticism of the sport. And now people are throwing slash lines in there. Like couldn't write a freaking eloquent sentence if their
John,
life
John,
depended on it.
I lost it the other day when someone pointed out to Corey Simon of NBC Sports Philly. Someone actually said this to Corey. Ricky Weeks in 2008, the second baser of the Brewers, had a better season than Ryan Howard in 2008 because of WAR. He had a higher WAR. And I said, you got to be kidding me. Just tell me you did not watch either of those two play in 2008.
Well, yeah, and there's a fine line. What it is ugly, when you just boil it down and you lose and baseball, is a perfect example for the younger viewers that don't know. Baseball was once by far the most popular sport in America.
It wasn't
By
when I was
far.
growing. It wasn't when I was growing up.
And now it's a distant third, I would argue.
Because fantasy baseball, you got to play every day, and fantasy football, you don't.
Well,
Although
I
we're
don't
getting to
know
that point.
about that, but
I'm telling you, people watch football not because I still say a lot of people don't know what they're watching. They watch fantasy and they watch gambling.
Yeah, they watch players and stats.
Oh, and by the way, speaking of another, please, and I beg of you, Xander, I've already seen Madden rating leaks.
Oh, who cares what Madden thinks? Really?
Couple segments coming up on Birds 365.
Yeah, I'm taking those days off because that is the dumbest conversation in the history of the world.
John McMullen's in the 99 club.
That people give a shit about that.
Instead of doing Madden ratings, man, how about you improve your stinking game? Your game sucks.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a gamer.
It's a horrible football game.
Yeah.
It's just bad.
I've heard bad things about it, but I don't play video games, so that'll shock people as well. But
you know what's funny? They take their ratings to like everything now, like NASCAR.
Oh, I know. I actually got to it, and they were nice. I was nice. The actual Madden account, because I would just rip people for talking about Madden ratings back in the day, and they contacted me, and I was like, well, I think it's silly, and they're trying to get me to talk about it. I'm like, you're barking up the wrong tree here. It ain't.
How do you determine who has like an 84 speed rating? Like,
I don't know.
How do you determine? John,
I don't know, and I don't care.
If we're playing this game, John Ross should have 100 speed rating.
You would think,
but he doesn't. I remember he had like 78. I said, no, he doesn't. Like
field speed. Yeah, we're already talking about Matt, and I brought it up. I killed myself by bringing it up.
Well, we're talking about it.
Came out, Johnny Mac. What's your reaction?
There's nothing John McMullen likes talking
about.
Now,
I will admit, and I have admitted to Chody, players care about it. They seem to care about it.
Darius Slay cares about
because
it.
they all play it, and it's a.
And I don't know why they give a shit, but a lot of them do. I'm not saying everyone. A lot of them don't give a shit like me, but a lot of them do care, and it makes no sense to me. None. Zero. It is absolutely worthless.
Do you think it's because maybe they're upset that's how somebody else thinks of them as a player?
Of course. Yeah. It's an ego thing. Yeah.
But if you're the 10th man on the practice squad, you would be rated in the 50s, right?
I don't know. I've never looked at them. I don't know how they do them. Of all the lists in its list season, that is the dumbest list of them all.
What's the second dumbest?
Pick any list you saw this morning.
I
They're all
didn't see
dumb.
any. I don't see any lists this morning. I try to take my time away.
I
from
saw
football.
I saw Mike Clay, who I like Mike.
Oh, I did. I saw that in your Twitter.
Mike's the
yeah.
man, by the way.
Yeah. He rated the linebackers groups in the NFL.
Oh, the Eagles are 30th?
Yeah, Eagles are 30th,
Shocker.
which is about right, by the way.
Yeah, it's not wrong.
We've been on a
Yeah.
litany of tangents, Jeff Kerr. Let's get
Yeah,
back
that's
to
a
the
lot of
original
tangents.
question here.
I
What's
apologize.
your rankings in the NFC East this year?
Eagles, Cowboys, Commanders, Giants. There you go.
Yeah, that's what I have with that too.
It'll be completely wrong in 6 months, but whatever. Hey, you know what, Xander? Actually, since it is list season, one of my favorite articles I'm going to be writing, I'm starting it today, comes out in 3 weeks. When I get to pick who I think are the 5 worst teams in the NFL are going to be, and I get roasted, and I usually get 4 of the 5 right.
Yeah,
one of-
well,
3
I
weeks
gotta
from
think
now, that'll
about
be a
that.
topic on Birds 365. Jeff.
So last year, I said the Giants were going to royally suck and the Patriots were going to be even worse. And I got oh, you're an Eagles fan. I said, one, I'm not. 2, your team suck. You just don't want to admit it. 5 weeks into the year, was I retweeting that and tooting my own horn.
Jeff, give us one of your 5 right now. Will you do it? Will you give us one of your 5?
I got to think of one of my 5. Who's
All right,
New
you know what,
England.
if you're not
right off
ready
the
yet,
bat,
that's
you
all right.
just said it. New England's going to be
Oh, yeah,
awful.
well, I know New England's going to be awful, but I'm trying to go one outside the box here. Like one I think that isn't going to be good.
Not a Drake May fan, Johnny Mac, huh?
I'm not a Patriot.
No,
fan.
I think it's a bad spot. They don't have supporting
You know
cast.
what? I got one. The Saints.
Wow,
Oh, no.
Johnny Mac
Oh,
won't like that.
No, I don't like. Jeff doesn't like Dennis Allen.
I
I'm
can't
with him.
stand
I
it.
don't like Dennis Allen as a head coach. Way too much talent on defense to be.
Well, that's just it. That's why I probably won't go. Like I'm just thinking. I'm like, sooner or later this team's going to implode. But then I look. I'm like, okay, yeah, they're not the Patriots. They're not the Giants. I mean, can Carolina be as bad as they were again?
Yes, probably not as bad, but those are the 2 teams I would go to as guaranteed bottom feeders.
Patriots and Panthers.
Patriots and Panthers. Las Vegas, I think, is going to be bad.
Yeah, they don't have a quarterback.
And I'm trying to think.
Denver. I should go Denver.
Denver Commanders, I think, are a year away. Depends on if Jaden Daniels. He might be able to do some things.
This also goes
I
by
don't think they're gonna be
expectation
bottom 5
too.
with
Like
Commanders.
people, for some reason, thought the Giants were going to be good last year. It only took me 2 quarters
Because
into
they
a
made the
season.
playoffs. Yeah,
They
they
that
won a
was-
playoff game, Jeff.
I don't care. My bold prediction was we have to do one for CBS Sports each week. I still remember my week 1. I'm like, all right, I'm really gonna get Cowboys fans riled up here. I said the Cowboys are gonna beat the Giants by 30 points. I think they were up 30 points in the first half.
You know who the Giants' secret weapon is this year? My guy, Jack Stoll.
Yeah, Jack Stoll. I thought you were gonna go a little crazier than that, but yeah, that's a good one.
No,
Jack-
Devin Singletary said
Yeah.
he's going to be the same type of playmaker Saquon was.
No, he's
So
not.
We're going to see.
Devin
We're gonna
Singletary-
see.
Jeff, I'm going to call you out. I got a call out for you. You just
All
said you didn't care the Giants won a playoff game, but when I asked you what defines success for the Eagles in 24, you said they need to get a playoff win.
But the Giants and Eagles have different expectations.
Yeah, but the Giants' expectations were lower.
Well, the Giants' expectations last year were they thought they were going to win a Super Bowl, and I'm like,
Oh
with
God!
what?
Anybody that thought that has their glasses aren't even.
You know
blue.
what?
They're
Giants
like
fans
painted
didn't
their
want
body
to-
blue.
Giants fans did not want to admit this last year, but it really bothered me with that organization. They were okay with losing 38-7 in a playoff game. That is never okay.
Oh,
I don't care
they
how
were
far
not.
you get.
They were not only happy. They misevaluated. They thought they were closer than they were.
They were never
Uh,
close.
No, they weren't. Well, remember the team they beat had Ed Donatel as the defensive coordinator.
But by the way, that's your boy, John. Mr. 4th and 26 at Donatel. Somehow that guy still got defensive coordinator jobs. John Desai can't get one anymore, but yeah, let's just bring back Ed Donatel.
Well, no, Ed, that season, I don't believe Ed's in the league anymore.
No, he's
that
not.
season was so bad. That's one of the worst defenses I've ever seen in my life, and that's a Vic Fangio defense. That's
that's why he's still around, because he's a Vic Fangio guy.
Well, yeah, he's a big Vic guy. But he's not in the league anymore. It was so bad in 2022 that people are like, all right, we're going to pull the plug on poor old Ed. When that defense goes bad, it is ugly. It is ugly.
The Vikings, the Vikings gave me a lot of love in the offseason last year because I said they have one of the top 5 moves of the offseason, and that was hiring Brian Flores.
Oh, I love Brian. Yeah, they went from the outhouse to the penthouse at defensive coordinator,
and they were
very similar
defense.
Yeah, because that was one of my predictions. I got right. I said because they were at the bottom with Ed Donatel. I don't think they were 32nd, but they were very much
close.
like the Eagles last year. 31st passing defense, I think 30th overall, maybe. And I guaranteed they'd be top half with Brian Flores. Just Brian, and they didn't have a ton of talent. Just Brian Flores. And they were. And I say the same thing about Vic this year with the Eagles. They don't have a ton of talent, but they're going to be top half of the league.
They're going to be better.
Yeah.
Jeff, what was the score of that playoff game you just said? That was unacceptable. 38-7?
38-7.
That the Giants lost that year?
That was the Giants.
The Eagles.
How about 32-9?
That's unacceptable too. You know that. Yeah, you definitely know how I feel about that.
That's where I was going with it. That's unacceptable too.
That's unacceptable. Losing 6 or 7 is unacceptable. Come on, Sandra, you know me better.
I know that. All right, Jeff, thanks for joining the show, man. You give us extended time. We appreciate it as always. We appreciate it.
I gotta give you one more extended time because I gotta call out McMullen. John, how do you know where a certain spot is in Reading? By the way, you know where I'm going with this.
Oh yeah, well yeah, I frequented that place in my younger days, so yeah, it's amazing it's still around. They used to give out punch. They used to give out. Terrell Lewis will know about that, but they used to give out punch cards. My little Terrell Lewis allude. So the 10th visit would be free.
John went 9 days in a row.
One of the few punch cards I actually was able to redeem back in the college days. Yeah.
Did you go
for people that know? There's a certain spot in Reading, Pennsylvania. Jeff was there, ostensibly attending a Reading Phillies game, but we know he was at a certain cabaret, shall we say?
Was Ed at that cabaret too?
No, Ed had his wife out there. You didn't tell me that. Yeah, couldn't.
I'm sitting with Ed.
Couldn't veer off to Al's Diamond Cabaret. We'll give him a plug. There you go, pre-plug.
I showed a couple people that text that Ed sent me, and yeah, a lot of us. They're like, of all the places, they have the pagoda, they have all the food places, and that's where you mentioned.
Yeah,
I love it.
Best place in Reading.
Good stuff, Jeff Kerr. Thanks for coming on the show, man. We appreciate it.
Sounds great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, bud.
Jeff Kerr joining us on Birds 365. Always does a great job. Always brings great conversation and does great work for CBS Sports. So make sure you guys follow Jeff on Twitter. Read his work at CBS. And in 3 weeks, look for that article, The Worst 5 Teams in the NFL. Where's my buddy James Jones? Is he in here? James Jones. Where's my guy? He is in here. Our resident Commander fan. James, you better be looking for that article to see if your Commanders are in the bottom. Jeff Kerr's bottom 5.
I would think the Giants would be in there before the Commanders.
I do too. I think the Commanders are going to be all right. Actually, I told James that, and he paid $5 for me to give him a little hail to the Commanders or whatever the heck it was I did. Yeah. So we appreciate that. Let's get another commercial break. I got another good topic for Johnny Mack on the other side of the break. So we'll do that at the coming up. We got one more segment left on this Monday edition of Birds 365. If you're in here, and I appreciate everybody that's in here on this Monday, it's June, so I know we're in the low point of the year. 81 days till the Eagles kick off the season. But if you are in here, drop us a like. We appreciate it. Stay tuned. Birds 365 will be right back.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.